So anyway, right here we have Legacy Prime Skyquake. Looks pretty cool. He's definitely like a stylized take on the character. Like he sort of blends the Prime aesthetic with the old G2 Dreadwing design, which I think is really cool. I like a lot of the angles here. A lot of really cool stuff you can do here to really suit him too. Like you can sort of like angle down his shoulder pads to sort of give him like a more Prime accurate look. You know, you could sort of angle them up a little more, you know, if that's how you want to do it. You know, all things you can do if you want to do them, to quote Emgo. Personally, I kind of like to think of this guy as sort of being like a really aggressive, abusive drill sergeant type character, like Sergeant Hartman from Full Metal Jacket. I don't know, maybe it's just the sort of whole militaristic color scheme with the olive green and the sort of red here. He definitely seems like the kind of guy who would scream at me in Arlie Ermey's voice. I mean, hey, Prime Skyquake basically isn't even a character, so you're pretty much welcome. So I mean, hey, as far as I'm concerned, you're pretty much welcome to do whatever with him, really. Comes with this cool-ass minigun. Also with this kind of lame-looking sort of energy sword, which half of it is more like a big club, but whatever. Does have some annoying issues, like, for example, his backpack does kind of tend to come untabbed a little more easily than I would like. Also doesn't really have super substantial heals, so like, yeah. But it's not a big deal. He's still mostly pretty fun to mess around with. Pretty good size for a modern leader too. Like, you know, here he is next to some Dinobots. He's around as big as 86 Swoop. And, you know, he still comes up to the shoulder line of, say, Snarl over here. So, yeah, pretty big guy. And he definitely feels nice and big, too. Like, he feels very hefty. Poses really well, too. Shoulders pulled this much out. Pretty well beyond the average 90 that these do. Biceps swivel. Oh, and he also has a butterfly joint. I forgot to mention that. But, yeah, that's really good, too. Head swivels, and he can also look up very far. Good for a flyer. Elbows pull like maybe a 150. Wrists swivel. If you open up this little door for transformation, his wrist can go in. Has an ab crunch thanks to the transformation, which is a pretty rare joint for a mainline Chug figure. Standard waist swivel. Legs spread out this far. Very good. Unfortunately, his ankle only goes this much inward. Fails the Van Damme test, I'm afraid to say. Legs kicked forward that far, and kicked back that far. So very good range on both sides. And yeah, very deep knees. Pull maybe like a 150. So yeah, overall, you could definitely get him in some really nice and dynamic poses. Only thing I could really wish more for is some better ankles. Transformation kind of sucks, a lot of really annoying clearance clashes, but in the end you get this pretty nice looking plane. That whole militaristic feel I was talking about earlier definitely carries over into this mode. Gives me the vibe of it being a very aggressive sort of heavy bomber type plane. Like I definitely picture this as being the kind of plane that would sacrifice some sort of maneuverability in favor of adding in as much speed and firepower as possible. Definitely feels fitting for a bigger Decepticon like him, who I imagine, you know, carries some heavier weapons, probably. You can also really play around with, like, these shoulder pads to sort of suit you, which is really cool. Like, for example, if you flip them around, you can sort of have, like, these big-ass air intakes that kind of give it, like, a Harrier jet vibe. Shout out to Perspective End for bringing this to my attention in his review. Or you could sort of move them to the front and maybe get, like, a Cybertronian jet kind of look. This kind of sort of reminds me of Prime Megatron's alt mode. But yeah, that's my whole point. You can really sort of just play around with this whole thing to really get it to suit you. So yeah, overall, I'd say he's a pretty great figure. I'd say get him if you're interested. Or hey, you could get the Dreadwing version too. I mean, I've been considering getting him. I mean, hey, you know, it helps that Dreadwing is like an actual character, even if I do like my whole sort of drill sergeant bit with him. So yeah,